Karoline Leavitt's sprawling estate had always been a subject of hushed whispers among the locals, an old manor with manicured hedges and ancient oaks that lended an air of both elegance and mystery. Few suspected that beneath its ornate facade, hidden from prying eyes, lay a secret even more astonishing, a state-of-the-art underground bunker. I first discovered its existence on a rain-soaked evening. Wandering the property during a routine maintenance check, I nearly missed the heavy iron door camouflaged against a wall of rough stone. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than part of the estate's old architecture, a relic from another time. But a closer inspection revealed subtle signs of recent tampering, almost imperceptible scratches around the edges, and a faint, warm glow seeping from beneath its seams. Curiosity piqued. I pushed aside the overgrown vines and rusted chains that served as an accidental barrier. With a deep breath, I ran my fingers along the cold metal, feeling the vibrations of something alive and well hidden. The door was fitted with a biometric scanner and a series of intricate locks, a clear message that this was no ordinary storage closet, but a fortress built to withstand the worst of sieges. Inside, the bunker was a stark contrast to the antique charm of the estate above. The narrow stairwell led down into a world of gleaming metal corridors and pulsating digital displays. Every surface was meticulously maintained, high-tech security systems, surveillance cameras that tracked every movement, and reinforced doors that could withstand even the most determined assault. The bunker wasn't just a refuge. It was a statement of defiance, an unyielding bulwark against the external threats Karoline had long anticipated. In that moment, standing at the threshold of Karoline Leavitt's secret haven, I felt a surge of adrenaline. This hidden lair was more than just a secure hideout. It was the nerve center of her rebellion, a testament to her preparedness for a world fraught with danger. Every advanced piece of technology, every strategically placed defense, spoke of a meticulous planning that bordered on genius. Little did anyone know, this revelation would be the spark that ignited a chain of events beyond anyone's wildest imaginations, a chain that would soon draw the attention of a ruthless Mexican cartel, hell-bent on exploiting even the smallest vulnerability in Karoline's impregnable fortress. And as fate would have it, their audacity was about to get them more than they ever bargained for. It all started with whispers on the dark web, a rumor that had wound its way through the cartel's network like wildfire. While I was still processing the revelation of the bunker's true nature, somewhere far from this high-tech fortress, a piece of false intelligence had already set the stage for disaster. The Mexican cartel had been tracking potential targets for months, their spies and informants scouring every inch of the region for a vulnerability they could exploit. One such tip, carefully crafted and strategically planted, pointed to Karoline Leavitt's estate. But the intel was fatally flawed, a deliberate piece of misinformation designed by Karoline's inner circle to mislead any would-be intruders. According to the reports circulating within the cartel, the bunker was nothing more than an old, abandoned cellar. The intel painted a picture of a derelict space, neglected and vulnerable, where outdated locks and rusted reinforcements left the door wide open for an easy raid. The cartel, already brimming with overconfidence from past conquests, took the bait. They saw it as a gold mine, a low-hanging fruit ripe for the picking. I remember the night vividly. The tension was palpable even in my hidden sanctum. While I pored over the latest surveillance feeds and security logs, my secure communication line buzzed with urgent alerts. The intercepted messages were laced with the cartel's crude arrogance. They believed Karoline's defenses were a relic of a bygone era, and that the vulnerability they'd uncovered was the perfect opening to make a swift, decisive strike. Deep down, I knew something was amiss. The intel was too convenient. Karoline had always prided herself on her meticulous planning. Every layer of defense in the bunker was designed to thwart exactly this kind of assault. It was then that I pieced together the truth. This was no accidental lapse in security. It was a trap laid by her own team to lure the cartel into a fatal overreach. Their false sense of security was almost poetic, the perfect setup for a rebellion that would leave the cartel reeling. And as I looked out from the depths of the bunker, watching the storm clouds gather over the estate, I could almost hear the distant thud of heavy boots approaching. They had no idea what awaited them. In that moment, the irony wasn't lost on me. The cartel, fueled by misinformation, were marching straight into the lion's den. And Karoline's hidden fortress was about to show them just how wrong they were. It happened on a moonless night, the kind of night where darkness clings to every surface, and even the faintest whisper of movement is swallowed by the void. I was deep in the bunker's command center, monitoring the security feeds and double-checking the lockdown protocols, when the alarm suddenly blared to life. A flurry of red lights danced across the screens, signaling that the outer perimeter had been breached. I rushed to the main console, my pulse racing as I watched live footage from the external cameras. There, in the inky blackness of the estate's grounds, a convoy of black SUVs rolled in, their engines low and menacing. The unmistakable insignia of the cartel was emblazoned on their hoods, a bold, defiant mark that left no room for doubt. They had come, and they were expecting an easy score. The false intel had worked exactly as planned. Overconfident and blinded by their own arrogance, the cartel forces moved swiftly toward what they believed was a vulnerable target. Their formation was methodical, every step calculated as they approached the estate's outer fence. Little did they know, every inch of the property was under constant surveillance, and the bunker's defenses were primed for a counterstrike. As I watched the raiders breach the perimeter, I couldn't help but feel a twisted mix of satisfaction and apprehension. This was the moment we had been preparing for, the moment when the trap would snap shut with lethal precision. The automated turrets hidden among the trees and the concealed explosive traps lining the access roads were all ready to turn the cartel's bold assault into a chaotic bloodbath. Within minutes, the quiet night erupted into a cacophony of shouts, sirens, and the thunderous rumble of gunfire. The cartel's assault teams, heavily armed and bristling with crude weaponry, clashed with our strategically positioned security systems. The first automated turret whirred to life, unleashing a barrage of controlled fire that caught the raiders off guard, scattering them in a desperate, disorganized retreat. I felt my heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of the unfolding chaos, every moment a nail in the coffin of their overconfidence. The bunker's defense systems, integrated seamlessly with real-time intelligence, were proving to be a nightmare for the intruders. It wasn't long before the alarms in the control center were accompanied by frantic chatter from Karoline's elite operatives. They were mobilizing swiftly to intercept the cartel forces before they could reach the inner sanctum of the estate. Every step of the raid was a carefully orchestrated symphony of defense, and as I watched the events unfold in the monitors, I knew that the cartel had walked straight into a trap meticulously laid out for them. Their false intelligence had set the stage for a showdown that would leave them reeling, an emphatic demonstration that when it came to Karoline Leavitt's fortress, nothing was ever as it seemed. I steadied my breathing, bracing myself for what was to come next. The outer defenses had held, and now it was time for the real battle to begin inside the labyrinthine corridors of the bunker. The countdown to confrontation had started, and the cartel's ill-fated raid was about to cross into the heart of their own undoing. Inside the estate, while the chaos outside escalated into a cacophony of shouts and gunfire, the inner sanctum of Karoline's bunker was a fortress in its own right. Beyond the automated turrets and explosive traps that had thwarted the initial assault, every inch of the corridors had been rigged with advanced security measures that bordered on the futuristic. I watched from the control center as the live feeds captured the unfolding havoc at the perimeter. Meanwhile, deep within the bunker's labyrinthine halls, the series of hidden defenses activated in perfect synchrony. Laser tripwires crisscrossed the hallways, invisible to the intruders until they triggered a violent barrage of precision-guided countermeasures. In every corner, pressure-sensitive floor panels were set to detonate, creating sudden barriers of shrapnel and fire that split the advancing forces into panic fragments. The piece de resistance was the bunker's centralized AI-driven defense system. With real-time analytics fed from every sensor and camera, it predicted the cartel's movements before they could even take shape. As one of their breach teams pushed through a reinforced door, the system automatically locked down adjacent corridors and redirected all available automated defenses to the hotspot. The seamless integration of biometric locks and encryption protocols ensured that not even the most determined raider could bypass these measures without being detected and neutralized. Every advanced defense was a testament to Karoline's uncompromising commitment to safeguarding her secret operations. The technology wasn't just built to repel invaders, it was designed to turn every attempt at intrusion into a fatal misstep. The metallic hum of the systems, the flickering of digital displays, and the methodical rhythm of activation provided a stark contrast to the disorder outside. Here, precision and logic ruled, each component working in harmony to create an impregnable bulwark. As I monitored the feed, a shiver ran down my spine. The advanced defenses weren't just deterrents, they were a statement. Each pulse of red light on the control panel, every triggered sensor, echoed with the silent promise that Karoline's legacy of defiance was not to be trifled with. The cartel's aggressive incursion was met with a barrage of technology and strategy that left little room for error. In that tense moment, it became clear Karoline Leavitt's fortress was more than a mere shelter. It was an orchestrated masterpiece of defense and ingenuity. And as the intruders stumbled and fell one by one, it was evident that those who underestimated these advanced measures were about to learn a brutal lesson in the art of modern warfare. The outer defenses had done their job, scattering the cartel's forces in a frenzied retreat. But their real nightmare was only just beginning. As the intruders, reeling from the initial barrage, attempted to regroup and push deeper into the estate, they found themselves funneled into the bunker's narrow corridors, a labyrinth of dimly lit passageways rigged with deadly surprises. I watched from the control center as live feeds revealed the unfolding ambush. The moment the cartel's breach team stepped into a seemingly ordinary corridor, the trap was sprung. Hidden pressure plates beneath the worn concrete floors activated, triggering explosive charges embedded in the walls. A thunderous boom echoed through the corridor as a volley of shrapnel tore through the air, sending several raiders crashing to the ground. In another section, motion sensors detected the stealthy advance of a small team. Almost immediately, a series of booby traps, concealed within decorative panels and behind false walls, erupted in a carefully choreographed explosion of smoke and sparks. The chaos was instantaneous. Voices shouted in panic, bodies tumbled, and the metallic clatter of weapons being dropped filled the narrow space. The tight corridors offered no easy escape. Every turn, every dead end had been meticulously rigged to serve as a death trap. Automated defense turrets, previously dormant, now pivoted with lethal precision, unleashing controlled bursts of fire that decimated any raider foolish enough to press on. Their formations broke apart in seconds, the sophisticated security systems turning the tunnel into a gauntlet of lethal surprises. I could almost feel the tension radiating from the monitors, the silent hum of the bunker's machinery orchestrating each violent encounter. The ambush wasn't just about raw power. It was a symphony of precision and timing, ensuring that every step the cartel took was met with calculated retribution. Their overconfidence had blinded them to the strategic layout of the corridors, and now they were paying the price in a cascade of misfires and shattered hopes. In the midst of the chaos, I observed a particularly harrowing scene. A squad of intruders, trying to adapt to the rapidly shifting battlefield, found themselves pinned down in a narrow corridor as a hidden door slammed shut behind them, trapping them in a deadly crossfire. Their desperate attempts to breach the reinforced barricade only attracted more of the automated defenses, sealing their fate in a matter of heartbeats. Every explosion, every flash of automated gunfire, was a testament to Karoline Leavitt's meticulous planning. The corridors, once innocuous passages, had transformed into a veritable gauntlet of death, an ambush designed to break the will of any intruder who dared disturb the sanctity of her hidden bunker. As the firefight raged on, I couldn't help but marvel at the seamless integration of technology and tactical design. Each booby trap, every explosive barrier, was a carefully calculated move in a deadly chess game, leaving the cartel's forces reeling and disoriented. Their once formidable assault had turned into a panicked scramble for survival, a vivid demonstration that in Karoline's domain, no one was allowed to advance unchallenged. While the automated defenses rained destruction on the intruders, deep within the bunker, Karoline Leavitt's elite tactical team sprang into action. These were not mere security guards. They were battle-hardened operatives, handpicked and trained to confront the chaos head-on. I heard the subdued thud of boots echoing through the secure corridors as the team mobilized. Clad in tactical gear that blended stealth with advanced technology, they moved with practiced precision. Their faces were set in grim determination, each one fully aware that the slightest misstep could mean the end of the operation. In a dimly lit control room adjacent to the ambush zone, Karoline herself monitored the situation with a steely gaze. A master strategist, she had orchestrated every detail of the defense, and now she watched as her team executed her plan to perfection. Each operative was in constant communication, their voices terse and focused, relaying critical updates as they advanced through the corridors. I observed one unit, moving like shadows in the chaos, as they navigated the labyrinth of hallways. Their objective was clear: neutralize any pockets of resistance and secure critical access points leading to the inner sanctum of the bunker. The team's leader, a veteran known only as Viper, communicated silently through hand signals and whispered instructions, a language honed over countless missions. Viper's units split off from the main group, taking a side corridor that led directly to the heart of the compound. There, they encountered a group of cartel raiders reeling from the earlier ambush. Without hesitation, Viper's team engaged with controlled, surgical precision. Suppressive fire, coordinated flanking maneuvers, and swift, decisive strikes turned the skirmish into a well-rehearsed ballet of violence, each move a testament to their skill and resolve. In another wing of the bunker, a pair of operatives, codenamed Echo and Falcon, advanced silently to secure the communications hub. Their task was crucial, to disrupt any attempt by the cartel to coordinate reinforcements and to send real-time intelligence back to Karoline. As they bypassed the automated defenses with careful precision, their presence was like a ghostly echo in the corridors, undetected until it was too late. The synergy among Karoline's tactical team was palpable. They moved in perfect harmony, anticipating threats before they emerged and covering each other's blind spots. Every step, every action was driven by a shared commitment to protect the bunker and uphold the legacy of resistance that Karoline represented. As I watched the live feeds, the controlled chaos of the tactical operations contrasted sharply with the frantic disarray of the intruders. It was clear that the team wasn't just fighting a raid, they were defending a symbol. In the flickering light of the digital monitors, I saw resolute eyes, steady hands, and the unmistakable aura of those who had been forged in the crucible of conflict. The tactical team's presence injected a renewed sense of order into the battlefield. They were the embodiment of Karoline Leavitt's unyielding spirit, a force that transformed the bunker from a mere stronghold into an impenetrable fortress of defiance. And as they advanced deeper into the labyrinth, it was evident that the cartel's audacious assault was rapidly spiraling into a battle that could never hope to win. Amid the relentless chaos that had engulfed the corridors, a sudden shift in the battle's rhythm caught everyone's attention. In a dimly lit, narrow passage where the echoes of gunfire had momentarily subsided, a single figure emerged from the swirling smoke, a man whose presence radiated authority and menace. It was the cartel leader, a figure known only by his alias El Sombra, his face half hidden beneath a battered sombrero and a grim, scarred expression that told stories of countless brutal encounters. In that tense, breathless moment, Karoline Leavitt herself stepped forward from behind a reinforced barrier, her eyes locking onto his with a cool intensity that cut through the pandemonium. The corridor, momentarily cleared of the clamor of battle, became a stage for a showdown that seemed to suspend time. Bullets had slowed, and even the distant roar of explosions faded into a muted backdrop as the two adversaries faced each other. El Sombra, Karoline's voice was steady, laced with both disdain and unyielding resolve. You thought you could waltz in here on false promises and take what you believed was yours. But you're in my world now. The cartel leader's lips curled into a bitter smile, his eyes narrowing as he replied, Karoline, you underestimate the power that drives us. We're not here for idle games. We're here to reclaim what was stolen from us. For a heartbeat, the air was thick with the weight of unspoken challenges. Karoline's tactical team held their positions, weapons at the ready, forming an impenetrable ring around the pair. The tension was palpable, a high-stakes standoff where every second stretched into an eternity. The menacing glare from El Sombra met the unwavering determination in Karoline's eyes, each representing worlds at war, one built on ruthless ambition and raw brutality, the other a fortress of calculated strategy and defiant resilience. Without a word, the confrontation escalated. A stray bullet ricocheted off a metal panel, shattering the fragile silence, and both sides tensed as if anticipating the next move. Karoline advanced a step, her posture radiating the controlled fury of someone who had prepared for this very moment. Your greed blinds you, she declared, her voice echoing in a narrow space, and your mistakes will be your undoing. El Sombra scoffed, drawing his weapon with a fluid motion that spoke of years of hardened combat. In that split second, the standoff transformed into a deadly ballet of strategy and survival. Shots rang out, a series of rapid, almost ceremonial exchanges where neither party yielded an inch. The firefight was a stark contrast to the earlier barrage of automated defenses. Here, it was personal, raw, and brutally intimate. Each movement was measured, every gesture laden with both honor and desperation. The cartel leader's men, now faltering in their ranks, hesitated as they witnessed their leader's own peril. Meanwhile, Karoline's operatives held the line, reinforcing the resolve of their leader. The duel wasn't merely physical. It was a collision of ideologies, a battle for the soul of a war waged in the shadows of modern society. As the firefight reached its fever pitch, Karoline seized the moment. With a deft maneuver that defied the chaos around them, she disarmed a near-miss aimed at her, turning the tide with a swift, calculated strike. In that electrifying exchange, the gaze between Karoline and El Sombra spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement that their fates were irreversibly intertwined. Their confrontation was the fulcrum upon which the outcome of the entire raid would pivot. In that corridor, under the flickering light of a malfunctioning overhead bulb, the battle of wills raged on. It was more than a mere clash of arms. It was the final reckoning between those who manipulated the shadows for personal gain and the relentless force of a woman determined to defend her dominion. And as the duel raged, the corridor bore witness to the harsh truth. In Karoline Leavitt's world, only one side could emerge victorious. In the midst of the chaos, as the echoes of gunfire and clashing ideologies reverberated down the bunker's corridors, a single anguished cry sliced through the din. It wasn't a command or a battle cry. It was a sound of raw, unfiltered emotion. In a shadowed corner of the corridor, one cartel member's eyes burned with a seething mix of hatred and pain. His mask slipped just enough for me to glimpse a face etched with scars both physical and psychological, a face that I recognized from fragments of a past I had long hoped to bury. The man's name was Marco El Renser Morales, a subordinate in El Sombra's ranks, whose personal vendetta against Karoline was whispered about in the underbelly of the cartel. As the firefight intensified around him, Marco's voice rang out, laced with bitter reminiscence. "You think you can hide behind your tech and traps, Karoline? You ruined my life once. Now I'll be the one to ruin you." The corridors fell momentarily silent as his words reverberated like a death knell. In that fleeting pause, the weight of his history with Karoline came crashing into view. I recalled murmurs from our intelligence, a secret encounter, a betrayal that left him scarred and vengeful. Marco had once been close to her, a trusted lieutenant, perhaps even a lover, until a twisted betrayal tore them apart, leaving him with nothing but a burning desire for retribution. In the flickering light of the chaos, Marco lunged forward, his weapon raised not solely in the name of the cartel's ambition, but driven by a deeply personal vendetta. His actions were erratic yet fueled by a singular purpose, to force Karoline into a confrontation that transcended mere corporate warfare. His eyes, darkened by both loss and anger, sought to channel decades of hurt into one decisive moment. The confrontation shifted in tone. What had been a battle of strategy and brute force now carried the raw emotional scars of a deeply personal betrayal. Karoline's gaze softened for just a heartbeat, a flicker of regret or perhaps the burden of unspoken history, before hardening once more into the steely resolve that had defined her defiance. "Marco," she said, her voice a mix of sorrow and determination, "I never intended for us to end like this." Her words, though barely audible over the surrounding mayhem, carried the weight of 1,000 unhealed wounds. It was clear that his vendetta wasn't just another obstacle. It was an explosive collision of past sins and present retribution. The duel between them was unlike the other mechanical exchanges around us. It was charged with personal history, each parry and counterattack a bitter reminder of what had been lost. Marco fought with a ferocity born of years spent in the shadows of betrayal, his every move a desperate attempt to reclaim a piece of the shattered past. And as our eyes met across the tumultuous battlefield, I saw in both of them the stark reality of how deeply personal vendettas could intertwine with the broader war for power and truth. For a brief, harrowing moment, the chaotic battle around us receded into a distant hum, leaving only the charged space between Karoline and Marco, a crucible where the past and present collided with explosive intensity. It was a reminder that in this war of secrets and lies, redemption and revenge were two sides of the same bloody coin, and sometimes the deepest scars are inflicted not by faceless enemies, but by those who once called you ally. Just as the bitter duel between Karoline and Marco reached its fevered peak, a shift in the air betrayed a new twist, one that no one had anticipated. Amid the chaos and clashing ideologies, a subtle movement in the shadows caught my eye. At first, it was barely noticeable, a fleeting glimpse of a figure moving against the current of the battle. But then, in the midst of the firefight, the betrayal revealed itself with brutal clarity. It wasn't one of the cartel operatives, nor was it part of Karoline's tightly knit tactical team. It was someone we all had trusted, a shadow within our own ranks, working silently behind the scenes. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. One of our own had turned traitor. The traitor was none other than Hector Shade Ramirez, a quiet yet indispensable member of Karoline's inner circle. He had always been the one to monitor our movements, the one with access to our most secure channels. His calm demeanor and meticulous work had earned him an unchallenged position among us. Yet now his eyes betrayed a different story, a cold calculation that was not meant for our cause. In the midst of the ambush, as our defenses held strong and the cartel forces were reeling from the onslaught, Shade slipped away from his post. Instead of alerting the team to an incoming threat, he redirected critical security protocols, effectively disabling a key segment of our digital shield. His actions sent a ripple of confusion across our communications network, a disruption that allowed fresh waves of cartel reinforcements to surge forward. I watched in horror as the live feeds flickered and went dark in crucial sectors of the bunker. Caroline's operatives scrambled to re-establish control, but the damage was done. Shade had not only compromised our defenses, but it had also leaked sensitive tactical details to the enemy. The betrayal was both deep and personal, a sharp reminder that trust, once broken, could shatter even the strongest of alliances. In the chaos that followed, the already beleaguered corridor became even more treacherous. The cartel, now emboldened by the sudden lapse in our security, pressed their attack with renewed vigor. Their advance was methodical and merciless, a stark contrast to the earlier confusion. Automated systems that had once turned the tide against them were now rendered useless in key areas, leaving Caroline's tactical team scrambling to patch the breaches. I could see the devastation on Caroline's face, a mix of disbelief, betrayal, and steely determination that even this treachery would not break her spirit. "Shade, why?" she hissed, her voice raw with emotion as she fought her way toward the communication center. It was not just a question of strategy. It was a personal wound, a betrayal by someone who had once been like family. As the traitor made his escape into the labyrinth of corridors, his silhouette merging with the shadows he once commanded, the full implications of his actions became clear. With each minute that passed, the cartel's forces gained ground, exploiting the very gaps we had fought so hard to secure. The betrayal was a catalyst that threatened to unravel the entire operation. Yet even in this darkest hour, there was no time for despair. Caroline's resolve only hardened further. She rallied her remaining operatives, issuing orders with cold, measured precision that cut through the chaos. Every ounce of her strategic brilliance was now focused on plugging the breaches and turning the tide once again. Her voice, resolute and defiant, echoed through the corridors as she vowed that the traitor's treachery would not spell the end, but rather a new beginning for their fight. In that moment, the true cost of betrayal was laid bare. It wasn't just a failure of security, but a fracture of trust that threatened to tear the rebellion apart from within. And as the cartel forces advanced, the stakes of this internal conflict grew ever higher, leaving us to wonder if even the strongest fortress could withstand the damage inflicted from within. In the aftermath of Shade's betrayal, the battle within the bunker escalated into a stark confrontation between cold, calculated technology and the raw, unbridled brutality of the cartel's forces. While the traitor's actions had momentarily thrown our defenses into disarray, Karoline Leavitt refused to let her hard-earned ingenuity fall prey to chaos. Deep within the command center, Caroline's eyes locked onto a sprawling digital map, a real-time mosaic of every sensor, camera, and pressure plate in the bunker. The AI-driven defense system, though partially compromised, still pulsed with a relentless clinical efficiency. It was more than just circuits and code. It was the very embodiment of Caroline's strategic vision, designed to anticipate every move of the enemy. As I watched the digital feed, the system began to reassert itself, recalculating trajectories and predicting the cartel's advance with eerie precision. The raw firepower of the intruders was now being met with an onslaught of algorithms and automated responses. Every automated turret, every laser grid, and every remotely activated drone was synchronized in a ballet of destruction, their combined efforts forming an impenetrable wall of defense. In one corridor, a contingent of cartel raiders attempted to breach a reinforced door that led to the central armory. As they rapped and pounded, the AI system detected the intrusion and unleashed a countermeasure, a sonic pulse calibrated to disorient and incapacitate. The sound, a low-frequency hum that reverberated through the narrow passage, sent shockwaves through the attackers, rendering them momentarily dazed. Their brute force was no match for a precision strike delivered by a machine that knew no fatigue, no error. Simultaneously, real-time intelligence fed from hacked communications of the cartel allowed Caroline's team to anticipate every surge of enemy movement. On her control panel, live feeds flickered with annotations, red markers highlighting the positions of advancing enemy clusters, predictive lines indicating potential paths of assault, and automated alerts that spurred tactical adjustments. With each update, her operatives repositioned with an almost prescient understanding of the enemy's tactics, dodging ambushes, flanking regrouped forces, and neutralizing threats before they could gain any ground. Outside, the raw brutality of the cartel was on full display. Their heavy weapons blazed with unrestrained aggression, and their relentless assault was fueled by a desperate, animalistic drive. But every explosive round, every deafening burst of gunfire, was met with an equally relentless counterattack orchestrated by the digital guardians of the bunker. The sleek drones, equipped with precision targeting systems, swept through the corridors like silent reapers, their cold mechanical eyes locking onto the moving targets with ruthless efficiency. The scene was a visceral clash, the chaotic, uncontrolled violence of the human element pitted against the ruthless, calculated precision of advanced technology. Caroline's voice crackled over the comms, calm and unwavering amid the tumult. Reposition to Grid 7. Deploy countermeasures on Corridor 3, now. Her orders were precise, and her operatives responded with the fluidity of a well-oiled machine, every move synchronized with the digital pulse of their AI ally. In that maelstrom of digital warfare and brute force, I felt the uncanny thrill of witnessing technology in its purest form, a perfect blend of human ingenuity and machine precision. The enemy's raw aggression was slowly being chipped away by a cascade of strategically timed countermeasures. The AI's algorithms adapted in real time, learning from every misstep and recalibrating defenses faster than the cartel could reload. For every raider who charged forward with brute force, there was a corresponding tactical maneuver orchestrated by Karoline's systems, a flash of automated fire that pinned them down, an electrified barrier that forced them to retreat, and a precisely aimed drone strike that turned their momentum into disarray. As the confrontation raged on, it became clear that this was not merely a physical battle. It was a war of information, speed, and relentless calculation. The digital fortress that Karoline had built was a living, breathing entity, one that turned the cartel's raw brutality into nothing more than background noise in a symphony of technological precision. In that moment, with sensors pulsing and turrets swiveling in perfect harmony, the tide of the battle began to shift. The cartel, for all their ferocity, were increasingly on the back foot, outmaneuvered by a system that could predict their every move and respond with surgical accuracy. Karoline's message was clear. In her domain, technology was not just a tool, but a weapon, one that could outmatch the sheer, unrefined force of any human aggressor. Amid the calculated chaos of tech versus brute force, a quiet alert on the command center console caught my attention, a series of encrypted files that had suddenly unlocked themselves, as if by some unseen trigger. As I scanned through the data, it became evident that the cartel raid was not an isolated event but a carefully orchestrated maneuver with roots far deeper than a simple assault on Karoline's bunker. The files contained communications and financial records that connected high-ranking corporate figures, international syndicates, and even government officials to the very fabric of the cartel's operations. It was as if the assault had been engineered to distract us from a far more insidious scheme, a covert power play that spanned continents and blurred the lines between criminality and institutional authority. As I delved further, a disturbing pattern emerged. The encrypted messages detailed planned transactions and secret meetings, all revolving around a mysterious project codenamed Obsidian Nexus. The project appeared to be a confluence of technological advancements and ancient, occult symbolism, a fusion of modern cyber warfare and archaic rituals designed to manipulate both the digital and spiritual realms. In one particularly damning communication, a senior official of an influential conglomerate was seen negotiating terms with a high-ranking cartel lieutenant. The conversation hinted at using the chaos from the raid as cover to seize control of critical infrastructure, a move that would permanently tilt the balance of power in favor of the shadowy elite. The cartel, it seemed, was just a pawn in a much larger game, manipulated by forces that thrived on the exploitation of fear and uncertainty. Back in the bunker, my team worked feverishly to cross-reference these files with our existing intelligence. Every decrypted email and intercepted call painted a picture of collusion so vast it sent shivers down my spine. The cabal's reach was staggering. They weren't merely focused on subverting the local power structures. They were orchestrating a global coup, using terror as the lever to control economic and political destinies. Karoline's face was drawn as she examined the data. "They've been using us all along," she murmured, a mix of anger and sorrow in her tone. This raid was only the opening act, a diversion to distract us while they pulled the strings of an even darker agenda. Her words confirmed the chilling truth. The assault on the bunker had been engineered to trigger a domino effect, allowing the true architects of the Obsidian Nexus to make their move. The cartel's raid was but one chapter in a sprawling narrative of corruption, power, and ancient conspiracies, an elaborate ruse to mask the takeover of vital institutions and to cement their control over society. As the revelation settled in, I realized that every defense, every tactical maneuver, was now more than just a battle for survival. We were fighting against an enemy that transcended conventional warfare, a hidden network of elites willing to sacrifice countless lives to reshape the world in their image. The stakes had never been higher, and the truth we now uncovered was a catalyst that could spark a revolution or plunge us into an abyss of unending darkness. The files continued to unravel, piece by piece, the intricate web of connections that tied the cartel, the corporate giants, and the occult cabal together. And with each new revelation, the bunker's corridors, once merely the battleground of a raid, transformed into the nerve center of a global conspiracy, one that demanded not only tactical brilliance, but also the courage to confront a power far greater than any single force on the streets. As the digital revelations of a far-reaching conspiracy pulsed through our screens, the physical toll of the battle became brutally apparent. The corridors of the bunker, once a controlled theater of tactical brilliance, were now littered with the shattered remains of the cartel's overconfidence and with the scars of our own fierce resistance. In one passageway, the relentless barrage of automated defenses and the calculated counterattacks had transformed the space into a grim tableau of chaos. Bodies lay strewn across the concrete floor, both intruders and defenders caught in the crossfire of a war that had long since lost its human face. The stench of gunpowder mingled with the metallic tang of blood, a stark reminder of the lives being sacrificed on the altar of this hidden power struggle. I watched in silence from the control center as live feeds flickered with images of devastation. The once formidable line of cartel raiders had been decimated by our advanced systems. A crushing volley of automated turret fire, explosive traps, and drone strikes that left little room for survival. Their formations, which had seemed so confident moments before, now disintegrated into scattered pockets of desperate resistance, many of whom fell victim to the barrage of precision weaponry. Inside the bunker, the toll was heavy on our side as well. Several of Karoline's elite operatives bore fresh wounds from close-quarters combat. The echoing groans of the injured and the rapid, harsh commands of medics filled the normally hushed corridors. Each casualty was a painful counterweight to every enemy eliminated, a grim ledger of sacrifice that underpinned our struggle. The atmosphere was suffused with a grim resolve. As the numbers dwindled on both sides, the reality of our confrontation sharpened into something starkly personal. The advanced defense systems, which had once seemed almost omnipotent, now registered each life lost as a statistic, a reminder that no technological marvel could erase the human cost of war. In a collapsed hallway, I witnessed a moment of profound sorrow as one of our own, a young operative known as Falcon, crumpled to the ground after a bullet found its mark. His face, illuminated by the cold glow of a flickering emergency light, bore the quiet resignation of someone who had given everything for a cause greater than himself. For a heartbeat, time seemed to pause, and the relentless hum of the bunker faded into a mournful silence. Outside, the chaos on the perimeter escalated into a bloodbath. The cartel's assault, once marked by overconfidence, was now reduced to desperate, disorganized scrambles for cover. The heavy casualties among their ranks were a brutal testament to the ruthlessness of Karoline's defenses. Every fallen enemy, every echo of shattered dreams, was a grim reminder that the price of ambition in this deadly game was paid in blood. Yet, amid the carnage, the resolve of Karoline and her team only hardened further. The heavy losses on both sides served as a catalyst for renewed determination. In the war room of the bunker, Karoline's voice rang out over the comms, steady and uncompromising, even as the numbers on the digital displays dwindled. "We fight not for glory, but for truth," she declared, the weight of every fallen comrade resonating in her words. "Let every sacrifice remind us why we stand against the darkness." The battle had transformed into a raw and unforgiving test of endurance, a relentless struggle where every life taken was both a wound and a rallying cry. The heavy casualties, etched into the battered walls of the bunker, and the anguished faces of survivors, were the somber heartbeat of this confrontation. They were a stark reminder that in this war, victory was measured not just in technological superiority or strategic genius, but in the bitter cost of human life.